This is Killer Innovations, a show about ideas, creativity, and how you can innovate. Welcome to the Innovator's Garage, where you learn to create your next game-changing killer innovation.
I've got from a couple players via email was with regards to kind of some tips and tricks, where to learn to go search for innovations, or where do I source innovations. So that's actually what we're going to cover in today's show. I'm going to let you in on a few secrets that I use when I am specifically going out and attempting to fill an innovation pipeline. And how do I think about the areas of innovation, and how do I actually come up with those ideas? Okay, so stay tuned. This is going to be the entire show, but it's going to be the show to give you a little bit of insight on how I have sourced ideas. Now, some of these ideas have gone on to be, phenomenally great products, some of them not so great, but the process really hasn't changed. I've just found it to be extremely useful. So what is it? How do we think about this today, or how should you think about it today? The way I think about it really about sourcing innovation is we're going to talk today about people, time, and money. If you go through all of the areas of innovation, you look at any great innovation that is out there today, and you were to say, what are the biggest areas of impact, the things that drive market adoption, drives customer acceptance, drives explosive, beyond traditional scale kind of growth. It's going to fall into one or more of these categories of people, time, and money. And we're going to talk about that today. Now, that's great. I can give you these three categories. We'll talk about these three categories, but there's a little bit more background that I need to give you. And that is, and if you've been a long-time listener, you know this. If you're relatively new to the show, guess what? I'm going to give you a 45-second tutorial on the power of questions. And the power of questions really says that if you're going out and you're trying to cause your brain to look at things in a different way, you can structure questions in such a way to cause you to go and look at things in ways you just never had anticipated. And it's this insight that I gained in the power of questions 20 years ago, which has really been kind of the secret sauce in my career. It is thinking about how you properly construct questions to cause yourself, cause your team, cause an organization to think differently than in just the traditional marching forward down a path. Now, what do I mean by the power of questions? The power of questions, if I ask you a question, you cannot stop yourself from answering it. Your brain engages, it answers the question, and then you're back listening. So I'm going to give you one example. And that example is, what is half of 13? So if I ask you this question, what is half of 13? Pause. You've answered it, 6.5. You've got the answer, now you're back listening to me. Now, if I was giving you a math test and you answered 6.5, you'd get an A. If I give you the question of what's half of 13, you give me 6.5, and we're talking about innovation, I give you a C. Why? Because you stopped at the first obvious answer. Now, if I said, how many different ways could you answer the question, what is half of 13? How many different ways could you come up with it? So 13 spelled out is THIR, split, TEN. Roman numeral 13, split vertically is 11 and 2, split horizontally, it's Roman numeral 8 and 8. There's 13 decks in a card. The number 5 card's the middle. Round 6 or 7, depending on your rounding rules. If you were to round the answer, there's one college professor who uses this question from my book, asks their students every semester to answer this. And in one of their classes, they came up with 31 different ways to answer this question. So the real opportunity here is around asking questions in such a way that it causes people to look at it differently. And so when we talk about people, time, and money, To really get the next level of insight is asking questions in the areas, looking at the problem differently around people, time, and money. And that's what we're going to talk about today. Now, these questions that I've come up with, what is half of 13, is a warm-up exercise that I use in many of my workshops, my lectures, when I'm teaching college courses, etc., around creativity. It's about recognizing that you can get yourself into these ruts, and breaking that rut and looking at the problem differently is where those really great insights will come from. And so this group of questions, I've collected up a whole bunch of them called killer questions. There's probably 120 questions in the card deck, and I don't have the card deck here sitting in the studio today. It's usually around here somewhere. It's literally 5x6 or 6x8 index cards where I've collected up questions that I think are just really great questions. And you should create your own collection of questions. If you want to use mine as a starting point, I share 48 of them in the book. There's now a card deck available. You can get all that over at innovation.tools. Any profits left over from what you purchase gets donated to charity anyways. But you can use that as kind of a starting point. But you should create questions that work for you, your organization, and your team. Why are questions such a key part of my methodologies? Well, the reality is that questions, if you ask good questions, that you will generate much better ideas, which generates much better product, revenue, product margin. If it's truly insightful, you can actually go through and take a look at all the kinds of products and services out there, and you can actually reverse engineer your way into the fundamental question that opened the insight that generated a great idea. And so the challenge or the opportunity that we want to talk about is where to begin talking today. What are maybe a handful of those questions? And specifically, how do you look differently at people, time, and money? Now, why is people, time, and money such an important criteria? It's important from the standpoint of what is it that drives people to want to buy a new idea, a new product, or a new service from you? What is it? People. How much do you know about that customer? How much do you really know about them, right? How much do you really focus and target whatever innovation you're working on to really understanding what's going on in the head of that target customer? And how do you define that target customer? We're going to talk about that a little bit later. Time. Innovations that save time have huge impact. Right? I've told the story many times in the past with my mom. My mom would have never have been the one to say, invent me a microwave. But when the microwave came out, she wanted it. Why? Because it saved her time. Yeah, she was a great cook, but she had other things she was more interested in doing than sitting in a kitchen cooking. And so by creating an innovation that saved her time, she got to do something that was more important for her, higher value, more enjoyable, time. Now the third one is money. How do you help people make more money, save money, better invest money, provide something of equal value but at a lower price so they can spend that money on something else? Money. That's why the real 3 secret focus areas that I zero in on in 90% of the innovations that I work on is around people, customer insight, time, and money. Now, how do you go forward with that? We're going to talk through this in more detail, but there is a structure to that around that focus of innovation, and that is, how do you ideate? What is the process through the ideation process to work on and come up with ideas? And that is around who, what, and how. In the case of who are you targeting? Who do you think is, who has the need? Who's going to exchange the value, etc. On the what is going to be focused on the thing about the product. What is it? Does it save me time? Does it save me money? What is it? The how is how does your whole business operate? So while we look at people, time, and money, we have a structure to ideation. We structure the questions around this who, what, and how. Now I have examples of all three. We're going to go into those as we come into the next segment, but don't go anywhere. We're going to give you some specific how-tos and how to think about people, time, and money, and how do you actually ideate those questions. So don't go anywhere. We're going to be right back after this quick commercial break. You're not going to want to go anywhere because we're going to give you that little secret that's going to kickstart your next set of ideas. And you're listening to Killer Innovations on the BizTalk Radio Network.
BizTalk Radio.
This is Killer Innovations, a show about ideas, creativity, and how you can innovate. Welcome to the Innovator's Garage, where you learn to create your next game-changing killer innovation.
Well, welcome back to Killer Innovations. Before we hop back into the show, I want to give a quick shout out to one of our great sponsors, and that is Zoom. Zoom is the video collaboration technology we use when we're communicating amongst the teams, when we have guests who remotely connect here into the studio, or just when we want to collaborate, when we want to share documents and edit them in real time. We've just found Zoom to be the tool. So check it out. Zoom has made available a free account for all Killer Innovation listeners. You can get your free account by going to killerinnovations.com/Zoom. That free account will allow you to connect and collaborate with up to 50 people. So check it out. Go over to killerinnovations.com/Zoom and get your free account. So at the end of the last segment, I was talking about the structured ideation, about who, what, how. We're going to walk through each one and put it in context around the three areas that I focus in on, which is what? People, time, and money. So let's do the first one, who. Who really focuses on who you build the product for? Who's going to exchange value for what it is? And two key questions that are, in the Killer Questions card deck, ones that I use almost in every workshop is what customer segment will emerge in 5 years that doesn't exist today, or what customer segment exists today will no longer be around in 5 years. Now, we all tend to want to look at customer segments in a certain way. And to be quite honest, there are a ton of companies out there that develop customer segment views. They take large amounts of data and they break them down into all these different segments. So for example, there's a company called Polk. Polk creates what they call 108 super niches. They've broken down everybody and put you in one of these 108 super niches, getting you down to a very fine granularity. There's another one company called Media Target. This is used by programmers creating, movies and TV content and cable TV channels and broadcast TV and, live streaming. And it's broken into 8 groups of what they call info-seeking viewers. These are people who are looking to get something out of the experience, whether that's I'm a news junkie, so therefore I'm watching, CNN and CNBC and Fox, those. Or I am into the feel happy, feel good kind of video experience, which means I'm watching maybe Hallmark, et cetera, et cetera. That's Media Target. Brain Reserve is another one. They've got their own segmentation, and they think about it in life stages. So where are you at in your life today? Are you a teenage child, young adult, newly married, new family, empty nesters, retirees, etc. Life stages. Microvisions is another segmentation. And Microvisions breaks down the entire population into 50 psychodemographic lifestyle clusters, as they call it. So this is psychodemographics, how you think, how you make decisions, how do you prioritize things, etc. 50 of those, and they put those into clusters. And guess what? You don't even know it, but you're in one of those because they've grouped you as a potential buyer for products or services, etc. And then there's another one called Prism. And Prism has what we call a potential rating for zip code markets. They take each zip code. So it depends on which zip code you live in, then you get grouped into. So they find that by zip code, people have similar size houses. There's a certain demographic around that location. Lots, maybe single-family homes versus apartments versus it's a college campus. And they use zip code as the defining characteristic. And then there's one called the upper deck. This is a categorization of the wealthiest 10% of the population by lifestyles. So if you want to target that, they've already broken down the top 10% and put them into lifestyle categories. So I bet you're thinking that there's only one way to define your customer, and that is not the case. That is definitely not the case. Now here we're going to go through another set of examples. Now this is one way that you can look at your customers. And what I would encourage you is when you think about people, again, people, time, money, think about people, you got to find that unique perspective of who your customer is and define it in such a way that if that's your target customer and you solve their problem, that you can go find another 5 million of those someplace to sell to. How do you define the segment? And how do you make sure that that's the segment you want to go after? So here's some examples. There's a segment called yuppies. The first person who came up with this, I don't know who it is, right? But it became extremely popular. And that is, in this case, the whole definition of it being young urban professionals. And in the case of young urban professionals, those are the people who, want to dress nice, go out to restaurants, they're single, they're living the life. Now there's yuffies. Yuffies. What's a yuffie? A yuffie is young urban failures. These are the people, typically could have been a yuppie, lived way beyond their means. Now they've moved back in home, they're living off the couch, living off of mom and dad. Mobies and dobies. What's a Moby and Dobie? Mom or dad, older, baby, younger. This is this trend of couples waiting till later in life to start having their kids. There's woofs. Now this is a category that I'm trying to work my way into, which is well-off older folks. People who've got their retirement figured out, they're well-positioned, they've saved their money, so that when they do retire, they can live in a lifestyle that they find comfortable. Skippies. What's a skippy? Skippy is school kids with income and purchasing power. This is the number one category consumer packaged good companies go after, whether that's Procter & Gamble or even grocery stores. These are typically younger girls, 14, 15, 16-year-old girls who have a lot of influence in the home on what gets purchased. Brand loyalty and building that brand loyalty at this stage in life is important. And then we have the sandwichers. I used to be a sandwicher. I'll probably be a sandwicher again, except to be a little bit different. Sandwichers are adults caught between caring for their children and their older parents. That is, you're taking care of both your parents and your kids. In my case, I don't have any kids at home, but we still have a set of parents that we'll be taking care of. And that becomes kind of a really important area of demographic as the aging population plays out. And we're going to talk about that a little bit later in today's show, about some work specifically to address the sandwicher market segment. So when we come back after this commercial break, we're going to continue on this conversation. We're next going to talk about about products and services and how to source those innovations. So you're not going to want to go anywhere. We're going to pick it up right after this quick commercial break. You're listening to Kill Innovations on the BizTalk Radio Network.
BizTalk Radio. This is Killer Innovations, a show about ideas, creativity, and how you can innovate. Welcome to the Innovator's Garage, where you learn to create your next game-changing killer innovation.
Welcome back to Killer Innovations. I'm your host, Phil McKinney. Before we hop back into this segment, need to do a quick shout out to one of our great sponsors, HP. HP is the half of HP when they split into two companies focused on the PCs, laptops, printers, those kinds of wearables. There's actually a set of watches that HP actually puts out as part of some work that they've been doing on IoT and wearable technology. So the HP you think you know is not the HP of today. So you want to go over and check that out. HP is providing some new equipment and gear that we're putting into this studio, and we're actually building a second studio so that we can more easily produce content, etc. And HP is providing a core set of that equipment. If you want to see what they're doing here and also about the relationship with the show, hop on over to killerinnovations.com/HP, check it out. Or you can always go over just to hp.com and check out all the great new technologies and devices. They've also got a great video series over on YouTube talking about information security, both in your printers and in your devices. And we were talking during the commercial break with some of the listeners who are here on Facebook Live about cybersecurity. So you want to check that out, go over to YouTube, just hop on over to HP. Tell them where you heard about it over here in the Killer Innovation Show so they know that you're a fan of ours, and would greatly appreciate that. So let's continue on our conversation. We talked about the who in the last segment, and the who in the last segment was about who's going to buy that product of value from you. In this case, we're talking about the what, the actual shiny object, that product, that service, that thing that you are going to readily make available. So here are two questions that I use just out of the Killer Question card deck that I use in most early brainstorming sessions just to get the people thinking about it. First one, who does not use my product because of years of practical or special ability is required? Right? Many people think about that as a negative. Some companies, you can use it into a vanity thing. Going back to my years as the CTO at HP, the reverse Polish notation in HP calculators was used to reduce the number of key presses in order to get to a calculation. It reduced the number of keys needed in the original HP 35. Now, not everybody knows RPN, but you go out today and you see someone with an HP calculator and you look at them, then you know that they're in that camp with you because they know RPN, reverse Polish notation. Find them as a target and figure out how to leverage that. That would be one possible idea that HP could use. Second question, what products could I create out of unused assets? Look, Amazon Web Services is really an entire business model that was created because of unused assets. Lots of servers used in the holiday season, sitting idle for 9 months out of the year. Let's use those assets. Let's create a cloud service a la Amazon Web Services. Zoos use it today. Rather than paying for someone to haul around, animal manure and having it hauled away, they put it in a bucket, they put it in the gift shop, and guess what? You as a guest can buy your own bucket of animal manure and take it home and put it on your roses. They turn what is a waste or unused asset into an entirely new product. So that's great. That's a couple of questions. But when I think about products and services, when I think about products in particular, I think about it in two categories, time and money. Now, time is meaning saving me time. If you can save me an extra hour or 2 hours a week, and we tend to think about it in traditional kinds of metrics that are human scaled, right? But there's actually ways of looking at time that you may not think are all that obvious. So how do we do that? Well, let's take it. How should you look at time, or what are some alternative ways when you use the word time? How do you think about it? So, for instance, did you know that there was actually a time measurement called shake? Now we think of shake of like shaking hands, but there's actually, if you go and search, there's actually a unit of time called a shake. And a shake is 10 nanoseconds. 10 nanoseconds is a shake. How about a jiffy? Yep, there's actually a measurement of time called a jiffy. How long is a jiffy? A jiffy is 0.01 seconds, 1/100th of a second. That's a jiffy. How about a microfortnight? Now this is actually a term in computer science. So if you're a geek, you probably know about this. If you're not a geek, maybe not. This was one left over from the early days of electronic computing. Microfortnight. A microfortnight is 1.2096 seconds. So it actually was a tick of a clock way back. And then it got standardized into a specific unit of measure. 1.2096 seconds is a microfortnight. How about a Planck time? Do you know what Planck time is? I didn't. I had to look this up. It's light to travel 1 Planck length. See, this is you're going to be able to take these and you're going to go into a bar and you're going to win lots of drinks with bar bets. Because I'll bet you 99% of the people you talk to aren't going to know these as trivia questions. How about a femtosecond? Femtoseconds, decimal version, it's, you get it. But did you know that a femtosecond is the time for a supersonic plane to travel the distance of one atom? Of one atom. And how about galactic year? Now, if you're a Star Trek fan or Star Wars, etc., what is a galactic year? Galactic year is measured by how long does it take the entire solar system to make one complete rotation. And that is 250 million years. So we've gone everything from a femtosecond to a shake to a jiffy to a Planck time, microfortnight, all the way out to a galactic year. Why am I going through this? The reason I'm going through this specifically is in order to, challenge you to think in different units of measure of time, right? It's not always about just saving an hour, saving 10 minutes. Is 10 minutes valuable? Is 5 minutes valuable? Think about time differently. But fact is time is perishable. You can't put it on the shelf, you can't pause it, you can't collect it and use it up later. It's a disposable unit. And so therefore it's highly, highly valuable. It's so valuable, we find 10,000 ways to measure it. Shake, jiffy, Planck time, femtosecond. Because it's such a way that just drives our days forward. We can't stop it, you can't pause it, you can't save it. And so therefore, your target buyer of your innovation is hugely passionate about time. Make them more efficient. Do things twice as fast. Give them more free time. Give them more value for the time they commit, getting them something that allows them to charge more for their time because now it's so much more valuable. Time is value. It's valuable to the person. It's valuable to their employer because they're paying for that time. Think about time in ways that you just normally have not thought about time. Focus on money. How can you value for money be defined? And here's another set of fun examples. A dosh. Do you know what a dosh is? I had to look this one up too. Someone used it on me and I didn't know what it meant. It's an informal British term for cash, like a buck or moolah in the American terms. How about a lucre? Now, a lucre, typically I thought of it as a specific type of money from a specific country, but it's not. It means money for doing something bad, typically money for doing something illegal. You do an illegal act, someone pays you cash for doing that illegal act, it's a lucre, L-U-C-R-E. How about a fiat? What's a fiat? Fiat is value not derived from any intrinsic value. The government by fiat determines the value of the dollar. It's not backed by gold, etc. Now here's one, Signage. It's the profit from producing currency, right? How much does it take how much is that dollar worth? It's worth $1 and it cost you 10 cents to make. So the Sonder ratio, the profit from producing currency was 90 cents. How about the Big Mac index? Measure for purchasing power parity between two currencies. And then we have leprosy money. Special money circulated only in leprosy sanitariums. Another way to look at it uniquely. Don't think about it in the same standard way. We got to step out, take another quick commercial break. When we come back, we're going to pick up this conversation a little bit on time and money and then continue on our conversation around this. So don't go anywhere. We'll be right back. You're listening to Killer Innovations on the BizTalk Radio Network.
BizTalk Radio.
This is Killer Innovations, a show about ideas, creativity, and how you can innovate. Welcome to the Innovator's Garage, where you learn to create your next game-changing killer innovation.
Welcome back to Killer Innovations. We're coming into this last segment. We've been talking about people, time, and money being kind of my secret sauce. So when I'm looking for innovations, that's where I go look. I'm looking for innovations that really address a very well-defined segment, customer, how I define that customer. And I don't use segments defined by others. I create my own segment, my own definition, but I do it in such a way that if this proves out, I can go find another 10 million of them. Time and money is what people value, right? Time, make me more productive, save me time, etc. Value, meaning I'm going to exchange value for you to get something in return. So, now that you've got an idea, what's my other secret sauce? My other secret sauce is the pitch. How do I pitch to get funding? How do I pitch to get ongoing support? So what I'm going to show you here, and I apologize for those of you on the radio, if you're watching on Facebook Live or you're watching this on YouTube or you're watching the edited version of this after the fact, you'll be able to see this. I'm only going to do a couple of minute clip of what I call a vision video. These are videos that I create, my team creates, that we work on to actually tell the context of the ideas and innovations we're working on in the context of how it's going to impact people's lives, why people should be excited about it. So hold on here one second. We are going to now start this video. Again, I apologize. If you're on the radio, you're going to listen to the audio, which is fine. It's an older gentleman narrating his own perspective of kind of an aging in place. I kind of maybe gave a little bit of it away, but here we go.
Come on, Cookie. I don't know how you're supposed to feel at 86, but I don't think I feel like I'm 86.
Surprise!
People make my world go round. I fear isolation and being cut off. If I am alone somewhere and I had no one to talk to, no one to share anything with, I bet you I would just dry up and blow away. I call this my smart house. I got sensors in all the rooms. I swallow them. I wear them. Doc knows what's going on with me. I don't have to go to the clinic anymore. I call him up. He's not back in the horse and buggy days.
Looks like you had a pretty active week, huh?
I'm feeling it too.
Hey, guys. How do you like your...
Knowing I got eyes on me gives me the confidence to keep me being who I am. Doing what I want to do frees me up.
It was a hard story.
Takes the worry away.
So what is this? This vision video is work that we've done called The Near Future a Better Place. It's about innovations to help people age in place. So thinking about the demographic, the segmentation, that portion of the population that's aging has disposable income, right? So they've got money to spend, wants value. The value for them is independence. The time component is to make it natural, make it that they have that independence without a lot of overhead and a lot of burden. Now, I've only shown you, maybe not even a 90-second clip here of this film. I'll embed it into the show notes over at killinnovations.com. I'll give you one little hint. The actor you just heard, or if you happen to be watching this video that you just saw, is none other than Rance Howard, Ron Howard's dad, who ended up becoming part of this project to tell the story of aging in place and what we could do via technology to make it so that people can live a long and independent life rather than in the history of being shuffled off to nursing homes and nursing facilities. So this is an example of a pitch video. This is extremely high quality, high production value. You don't need to go crazy like that, but I've done these vision videos since 2006. You can go to philmckinney.com, just search for vision video, and I've got the entire collection of all the vision videos that I've done over my career. I tend to use the same team, so the team that did this one is the same team that did the vision videos like Roku's Reward back in 2006. So check those out. That's one way to tell a story and make it really, really compelling and have people understand kind of what's in your head to what is going to be the impact on people's lives. And so again, back on the impact for innovation, the secret sauce for me is around people, time, and money. People really understanding the customer, so your target customer, not from some third-party categorization. You really knowing the customer. Go back, you can listen to some past shows where I talk about me doing surveys, random surveys in Starbucks in New York City, or standing in Best Buys, etc. Time and money, the things that we as individuals value. We only have a little amount of time, we can't live forever, and money allows us to buy the things that we enjoy or enable us to have a comfortable life, or allows us to support others that are important to us. Time and money. People, time, and money. So the questions, one of the questions we get is where can we find these questions? The Killer Question card deck, I've got it right here sitting, and I use it every day. You can buy it. Go over to innovation.tools and check that out. One last call out to our sponsors, Zoom and HP. Go check them out. Give them a quick shout out. Heads up, I will be in New York and DC coming up, December 26th in New York, September 26th in New York, September 29th in DC. I'm hosting a breakfast. If you want to attend, go to theinnovators.network/NYC for New York City, or theinnovators.network/DC for the Washington, D.C. breakfast. Would love to see you there. Love to catch up and hear what you're up to. Hopefully you found today's show informational. People tend to want to get around onto the new little techie things. I think about it always in the concept of people, time, and money. And I create those questions that force me to get that insight. So hopefully that's helpful. Love to hear from you. Phil@killinnovations.com. My contact information is available over at Phil McKinney or at killinnovations.com. And with that, I thank you for taking time out of your busy Sunday to spend your time with us. And look forward to talking to you next Sunday. Don't let the innovation antibodies get you down. Get out there, change the world with your ideas. You've got them. You can have an impact. Good luck.
The opinions you hear on Biz Talk Radio are those of the hosts, callers, and guests, and do not necessarily reflect those of this station,
like
Biz Talk Radio, its management, or advertisers. The information on Biz Talk Radio does not constitute a recommendation, offer, or solicitation to buy or sell any product or service. If you have any questions about Biz Talk Radio, contact us at 817-274-1609 or at biztalkradio.com. Biz Talk Radio.